Hello everyone, it's Theme Park Avenue. I am Eric with a brand new park battle. This one is between two Cedar Fair parks, Canada's Wonderland and Carowinds. Let's see who wins now. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel so you know when new coaster content comes out. And also, I should lay out some ground rules here. First of all, this is where I take individual roller coasters, pit them against each other based on similarities. The winner gets 1 point each. Then I go into different categories of other rides and food and shows and all of that. But roller coasters are the main focus. So, with that out of the way, let's get into the first roller coaster matchups. First up is the inverts. We have B&M Invert Afterburn against Flight Deck at Canada's Wonderland. Flight Deck, I'm sure some people like it. I do not. I think it is the worst roller coaster to exist currently. It's very rough, and it is not fun. And if they were to change the restraints to make them smoother and all, I still think Afterburn would be the better invert, thanks to its intensity. So it does get the point. Now for Aero Loopers, Carolina Cyclone and Dragonfire. And this is another Carowinds point because Dragonfire is a bit bumpier, and I have a lot more fun on Carolina Cyclone personally. Now for two more Vekoma rides, and these are boomerangs, Flying Cobras and the Bat. I hear some bad things about these particular boomerangs. I personally think they are two of the absolute best, and I give the edge to Flying Cobras. Part of the reason is the hilarious name, but the other is that I thought it was a bit more intense, and while both were perfectly smooth for me, I just thought Flying Cobras was a bit better, and it proves that not all Vekoma boomerangs are exactly the same. Now for the mine trains, Carolina Gold Rusher and Thunder Run. A tough call, as Thunder Run does go through the mountain and it's pretty fun, but there's a lot more thrill on Carolina Gold Rusher, and though it can be a bit joltier, I think it's a more fun ride. It has the nice terrain, natural terrain. It goes across the state line, which is a fun little thing, and it's a bit more fun and thrilling overall, while Thunder Run is a much more tame ride, giving Carowinds a 4-0 lead. Now for wooden coasters, Hurler and Wild Beast. Similar size, but the key difference is that Hurler is much smoother. I hear some say it's rough. I must disagree with this statement. I think it is very smooth, and it has some decent moments of force, and it is just a stronger ride overall. So it does get that point over Wild Beast, with a 5-0 lead for its park. Now for some family wooden coasters, Woodstock Express and Coaster Coaster. They're pretty much the same ride, but the key difference is that I had quite a bit of jerkiness on Woodstock Express that I did not enjoy, while Coaster Coaster I thought was a much more fun ride. Part of it is a little more theming, and also just that it was a bit smoother, and that is why Canada's Wonderland gets its first point with Coaster Coaster. Now, more family rides, family inverts, Kitty Hawk and Silver Streak. Kitty Hawk is cute and all, but Silver Streak is a bit more thrilling, a better introduction for younger thrill seekers, and it is much smoother. So it does get that point over Kitty Hawk. And now for flying coasters. These aren't B&M flying coasters, so they're not that great. We have Nighthawk, which is a really painful, overrated Flying Dutchman by Vekoma, and we have Time Warp, a Zamperla Velar, which is not a very enjoyable model. This is kinda like choosing between the lesser of two evils, but Nighthawk is a superior ride in its collection. It's smoother by a bit, it's less terrible, so I give Nighthawk and Carowinds the point. Now Kiddie Coasters, this is a half-point category, the only half-point category. Wilderness Run versus Taxi Jam. Taxi Jam has some theming with some road signs and all, but I will be giving the point to Wilderness Run. A bit more thrilling, better for the young thrill seekers, nice little terrain around it, it's a bit more fun. And now Wild Mouse Coasters, Ricochet and The Fly. Ricochet's pretty standard, not terrible, but not great, and The Fly is hands down one of the best Wild Mouse coasters I've ever been on, with a really good first drop, and it's a really fun one overall. So I definitely give The Fly this point. And now, Copperhead Strike and Yukon Striker. This is the battle of orange 2019 roller coasters that have Strike in their name, This is a weird category, I know, but I just wanted to put the other top 3 coasters from the parks in this particular battle because I didn't really have anything else to go off of. And while Yukon Striker is a dive coaster, and I love the dive coasters, I think Copperhead Strike is better for having a more complete layout with more elements and probably a bit more force, even if that first launch isn't amazing. But that said, I think it is the better ride overall. And then there are hyper coasters, and this is a tough one because Intimidator has good floater airtime. Behemoth has an amazing first drop. However, I'm gonna have to give the point to Behemoth. Behemoth is the better B&M Hyper. This was a bit of a close one, but I think it is the better B&M Hyper overall. And enough about Hypers, let's go to Gigas. Fury 325 and Leviathan. As a surprise to a few people, Fury 325 is better in my opinion, so I will be giving it the points. And now on to those extra roller coasters, the ones that we are going to be just giving a point for having them in their parks. There's Vortex at Carowinds, which gets to the point, and there's Backlot Stunt Coaster, Mighty Canadian Minebuster, and Vortex at Canada's Wonderland, which gets the park 3 points. I was considering doing a Vortex versus Vortex battle, but they're very different, and the result would shock way too many people and seem way too ridiculous, so I decided give each Vortex an extra point. Now, that's all for roller coaster matchups. Onto the drop towers. There's a drop tower scream zone in both of these parks, and while Canada's Wonderland is a bit of a taller and faster one, I decided that they are pretty much the same ride experience, and thus, each one is getting a point, so we have a tie for that category. And then there's flat rides. Both have a decent collection. At Carowinds, Southern Star, and Windseeker, and Electro Spin, and then I added in Sky Tower, the Carolina Sky Tower in this category. It's not really a thrilling flat ride, but I wanted to put it in because I do think it deserves a point, as it's a really good observation tower ride. So that's 4 points for Carowinds, and then there's 5 at Canada's Wonderland, particularly really good flat rides, but I'm not going to name them all because there's quite a few. So that means on to dark rides. Boo Blasters on Boo Hill is in both of these parks, so each get a point for that. I'm giving a point to the Plants vs. Zombies Simulator at Carowinds, and a point to Wonder Mountain's Guardian at Canada's Wonderland. I put this one into the dark ride category, as it is more dark ride than coaster. But either way, it would have been in an extra point type category, so it doesn't make a huge difference. And then the water rides. We're talking Rapids or Log Flumes, and Canada's Wonderland's getting 2 points for its Timberwolf Falls and Whitewater Canyon. Carowinds gets no points, because it doesn't have any. And that means it is time for other rides. Just kind of which one has a higher quantity of rides overall that are not roller coasters. The tally is Carowinds 42, Canada's Wonderland 53. So Canada's Wonderland does get the points. And now shows, that was the last ride category, so shows we have not much going on at Carowinds really, but some decent shows at Canada's Wonderland. I do give Canada's Wonderland this point. On to food. Food I think is decent in both parks at least. I like some of the chains they have in Canada's Wonderland, and poutine's a very good food, but Carowinds has some really strong southern stuff, fits with the idea of the park, and it's just really tasty. So, you know Carowinds is getting that point. And now, theming, appearance, atmosphere, that's one category here. Both are really nice looking Cedar Fair parks. They are both kept really well. I like some theming in Carowinds, and it looks like a really nice park, has a great atmosphere and charm to it, but Canada's Wonderland has the beautiful prominent Wonder Mountain, the excellent medieval fair area, and a couple areas around it just look really nice, so I had to give Canada's Wonderland this point. And on to the layout. How easy is it to get around this park? How well are rides placed? Well, there is some backtracking required in both of these to get on many major rides. However, I think it's easier to find your way around Carowinds, and easier to find entrances for rides because of how they are placed. And I think that means Carowinds is the better layout, in my opinion. And this means we are on to categories that aren't really related to the experience in the park. Operating season. Which one is open longer? and thus which one has more days where you can go and enjoy the park. Well, Carowinds is in North and South Carolina. Canada's Wonderland is up north near Toronto. The weather issues do mean that Carowinds is open longer throughout the year, so it does get the points. And finally, we have park operations. This is mainly focused on how rides are run and how few breakdowns happen, but there's a few more things about operations. And while both parks are run quite well, I think operations in Carowinds are better. There's some good in Canada's Wonderland, but a few slow rides, and I definitely know that they struggle on some of the more crowded days, while Carowinds kind of keeps lines moving a bit better, especially on their major rides like Fury 325 and Intimidator. I noticed they run really well on those, so I gave Carowinds the final point. And that means, in an incredibly close race, Carowinds took the win by a half point. Congratulations to Carowinds. To those who are really shocked that Canada's Wonderland even stood a chance, keep in mind that the quantity of roller coasters and flat rides is really what gave it an edge that almost let it win. It's not necessarily the quality, it's really just how many they had. I love both parks, but I'm happy Carowinds won. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment your thoughts on the parks down below, and comment any ideas for other park battles or future videos you have. Remember to subscribe to the channel. I will see you next time.